Explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. When it comes to turn-based strategy games, the 4X genre shows there is more to gaming than just destroying the other player's base. Humankind is a game where city management, technology, and diplomacy are just as important as how big of an army you have. It truly is a game that lets you build an empire the way you want to. However, all the mechanics the game offers can be hard to put together. So, is Humankind worth playing on console? So before we start, if you're looking for anything in particular like what the game is, the positives, the howevers, or just my overall opinion, then feel free to jump to the timestamp below. Otherwise, let's get into it. To start off, let's try to explain what a 4X strategy game like Humankind is. Firstly, if you've played the Civilization series before, you'll immediately know this type of game. For those unfamiliar, you create a world map and a range of settings to start a match. So these settings can include game speed, world type, resource allocation, and the amount of players you'll be playing against. So the game starts you in the Neolithic era in ancient times, and you'll research technology to slowly progress your civilization to the contemporary era. So you'll start off as a nomad tribe where you'll explore and create your first city. From there, you'll eventually expand your empire through creating new cities or taking them from other players. But one major warning about these type of games is depending on the game speed you choose, one match can take multiple hours or even days. But you might be wondering, what kind of game takes multiple hours for only one match? Well, a big appeal for Humankind is that combat is not the major focus. The focus of the game is to slowly build an empire through history. You can even win a match without building armies and having wars. So to allow for these different play styles, the game has multiple types of yields, currencies, and resources that you'll need to focus on. So for example, you have food that will help you grow your city population. You have industry that determines how quickly you can build in your city. You have money that you can use to buy units, resources, and pay for unit upkeep. And you have science that determines how quickly you can research and unlock new technology. And that doesn't even cover the empire-wide resources like influence, faith, and stability that you'll need to use to expand your empire, building cities and unlocking civics. And on top of that, I can't forget the strategic and luxury resources on the map that you'll need to use to build certain units and buildings. Because you can't build horsemen without having horses, or tanks without oil, and these resources can also be used to trade with other players. So far I've only mentioned food, industry, money, science, influence, faith, stability. So while this may seem like a lot to try and manage, it means Humankind is a game that allows for a strong focus on city and empire management. And remember, you do not have to focus on every single one of these resources and currencies. It just means instead of just rushing to build a military and attacking your enemies, you can focus your empire on science, so you can have the technological advantage over enemies, or instead, you might want to focus your empire on creating buildings and districts that increase your yield of money. This would allow you more income to instantly build troops and buy resources off other players. But for anyone who has played Civilization before, this is where Humankind starts to be different. Because winning a standard match of Humankind is about which player has the highest fame at the end of the game. So this means that meeting an end condition, like taking out every player or researching every technology, does not mean you win the game. It just means the scores are calculated. This creates a game that is not just about rushing to the end first, because fame is earned mainly through completing specific objectives in each era. You can also gain fame by building wonders, events, and competitive deeds, but it's mainly through the era stars. So to allow for different play styles, era stars are earned through different objectives. So these can include earning a certain amount of influence or money in a certain era, defeating a certain amount of troops, or even unlocking a certain amount of technologies. So at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, there are a lot of different systems in this game. And this is before I've even mentioned the diplomacy or the combat side of the game. However, I would argue that a lot of these systems are actually easy to learn, but hard to master. To really get into each and every one of them take hours of gameplay and tutorials, which is great for replayability as every game can feel different. But let's get into why I would recommend Humankind. For anyone unfamiliar with 4X strategy games like Humankind, it can be hard to fully explain the amount of mechanics and experiences the game provides. At its surface, the turn-based aspects of the game make it feel like a board game where you can spend your time calculating every decision. The game's pacing at times can be its biggest positive and negative. Like I mentioned before, what really makes the game shine is the amount of mechanics that allows you to win through not just eliminating your enemies, but also win through your skills of diplomacy and city management. One of the biggest positives of the genre is the replayability, as every match will play differently. And just like other 4X games, Humankind really does allow for a game where you feel like you're building an empire through history and using diplomacy and other tools to play the way you want to. For anyone that's played similar games like Civilization, Humankind provides an experience that is the same but different. It's familiar enough that Civilization fans will understand a lot of the core concepts. However, it is different enough that it changes the formula to feel like a new experience. So what are some parts that really stand out in Humankind? Firstly, Humankind's take on creating an empire through history is based on providing the player with more choices. To start off, you can create your own character and even choose their AI playstyle. From there, a big point of difference for Humankind is that you start off as a nomad tribe and will spend your opening turns exploring and engaging with the map before settling down. This allows you more time to decide where to create your first city. From there, the next major change is that every era of history that you'll go into, you'll need to choose a new era specific culture or stay as your current culture. This means you can adapt and change your playstyle every era, but be warned, it's first in best dressed, as the other players will choose cultures from the same list as you. The game also has narrative events where you'll have to make choices. However, I wish these had more depth. These changes may not be for everyone. At first, this took some getting used to. However, the more I played, I started to enjoy the change of pace. And I didn't even mention all the different gameplay changes, like the map having predefined territories, being able to fight in neutral territories, or the war support system. So overall, Humankind Console Edition provides a unique experience compared to other games in the genre. And because of the different ways to play the game, it has a lot of replayability for fans. It really is a game where for some players, you could spend hundreds if not thousands of hours. But at this point, you might be asking, how does a game with so many mechanics translate on controller? For me, I would say it's serviceable. The controls did not feel intuitive. To look at a menu or make troop actions would take multiple clicks and sometimes different buttons at the same time. To give the game credit, if you're a fan of the genre, the controls were never enough to make me want to stop playing. However, it also didn't feel intuitive, like certain buttons were mapped to the best location. Now this is especially true with trying to see certain menus and tutorials, and this leads me to my next point, the game's tutorials. So the game has written tutorial prompts. It recently added through an update tutorial videos that for me have no audio. I found that a lot of the tutorials and written prompts were focused more on the game mechanics rather than navigating the UI. Also be aware there has been some performance issues with certain crashes. However, at this stage, it's nice to see the game receiving post-launch updates. But the controls aside, an area of Humankind I have to talk about is the combat. In Humankind, you can stack units on top of each other, and once a fight begins, it turns into a turn-based battle where you place your units on the map. These battles can take multiple in-game turns. This provides a nice point of difference compared to some other games. A lot of players might enjoy the added player involvement in combat. However, when using the controller, I found combat to be a bit tedious to manage. Another part of the game that some people may enjoy or dislike is the game's multiple mechanics. For me, I did not enjoy the war support system. This is a meter that shows how much each civilization's population supports a particular war. In theory, this system provides a more engaging experience where you have to consider your population and diplomatic relationships before attacking another player. It's a great idea. However, if your war support meter hits 0, it will force you to end the war. This can mean forcing you to lose some territory. Instead of just giving you major debuffs, it takes away the player's choice. Being forced to lose a city doesn't make for an enjoyable experience, especially in a game that even on its fastest mode can take hours. So how much you enjoy the game's numerous mechanics will play a big factor into replayability. Also note, the game has a range of paid DLCs that add new cultures and systems. Ultimately, if you're looking for a strategy game where you can win not through just destroying the enemy, but through diplomacy or science, then Humankind is worth playing. While its controls are not the most intuitive, and there are times where I also experience minor performance issues, it still offered a unique turn-based strategy game with hundreds of hours of replayability. So if you're looking for a game where you get to build an empire through history and play the way you want to, then Humankind might be the game for you. Thank you for watching, please subscribe.